Shabbat Shalom, y'all. Join with me in singing Hine Matov. We'll do a warm-up Hine Matov, and then we'll do another Hine Matov. How's that? There are many of them. Hine Matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, 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 shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. And in honor of Shavuot, much to our surprise, the 10 Commandments broke into pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes, because the Torah was much too long to describe to all the Jews. Our God decided to write 10 commandments that said the don'ts and do's. Every commandment talked about the way we had to live when we work or play, cook or clean, borrow, take or give, 'cause there were 613 commandments that Moses handed to us. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. He threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 Commandments broke into pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. As we stood at the bottom of the mountain and listened to Moshe, he asked how many of us wanted the Torah, and a bunch of us said, yeah! Let's hear it, the yeah! We thought about the way life was and the way life ought to be. Without the Torah, we would have been lost and stuck with idolatry, 'cause there were 613 commandments that Moses handed to us. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. He threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 Commandments broke into pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. So when it's time to celebrate Chag HaShavuot. We all rejoice 'cause the Torah's ours to study, teach, and quote. Had we not made a promise to be chosen and to choose, remember that there wouldn't be a people called the Jews, 'cause there were 613 commandments that Moses handed to us. As we stood at the foot of the mountain of Sinai, our dear Moses started to fuss. He threw 2 tablets onto the ground, and much to our surprise, the 10 commandments broke into pieces, and we couldn't believe our eyes. We couldn't believe our eyes. We couldn't believe our eyes. Bum ba da da da. Bum bum.
Thank you, Chazan Mimi. It's great. Those of you who are here, I want to wish you Shabbat Shalom. And those of you, I know you're at home watching as well, a number of you. So we want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Still, slowly, people making their way back to synagogue. It's also the end of the year right now. People thinking about summer and all kinds of great things. You set up for Shavuot, which begins tomorrow night. Later on, a little later, I'm going to share a great midrash, rabbinic tradition about how one image of how the Torah was given and perhaps to the other nations before given to the Israelites. And then we're going to be counting the Omer that we've been doing from Passover to Shavuot. And tonight is the final night of the counting. Which is really, it's a wonderful night. We're going to continue with our service right now in the Siddur, the prayer book, the smaller of the red books. You'll be able to follow along. Those of you at home, if you haven't yet done it, you can download it from through our website, through the Rabbinical Assembly for the Friday night service, and you may have even the prayer book itself. We're going to begin page 13. Page 13, part of Kabbalat Shabbat, the welcome Shabbat, Shiru Ladonai.
Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz.
On the opposite page of transliteration, on the bottom, in the red.
Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Shiru Ladonai. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. We will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God.
At the beginning of that, we go back to
Shiru, Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. We will sing unto God a new song.
Page 16, we're going to continue with Or Zarua. I'm finding my way here in the book itself. And you will find the fourth line from the bottom in the Hebrew and the fourth line from the bottom of the transliteration. On the left-hand side, Or Zarua, let a light be sown for the righteous.
And there's a little opportunity when I'm strumming some chords to go like this. You'll figure it out when you hear it, okay? Or Zarua, la tzadik, u yishrelev simcha. Or Zarua, la tzadik, u yishrelev simcha. Or Zarua, la tzadik, u yishrelev simcha. U yishrelev simcha. Or Zarua, la tzadik, u yishrelev simcha. U yishrelev simcha. Lie, lie, lie. Yai, lie, lie, lie. Yai, lie. Yai, lie, 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 lie. Or Zarua, Lat Sadiq, Uyishrelev Simcha. Or Zarua, Lat Sadiq, Uyishrelev Simcha.
Page 23, if you turn a couple pages, you'll find Lechad Dodi. We're going to begin together. And again, there's transliteration on the opposite page on the bottom there. We're going to do the first stanza of Shamor V'Zachor. And then we're going to skip to the final stanza of Boi B'Shalom on page 25. And we're going to have you rise at that time. We'll let you know when. We'll face towards the doors, and we imagine the beautiful image of a Shabbat bride coming in to honor our Shabbat. So beginning page 23, Lechad Dodi.
Lecha, lecha, dodi, likrat, likrat, kala, pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala. Lecha, lecha, dodi, likrat, likrat, kala, pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala, la, 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 lecha, dodi, likrat, likrat, kala, pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala. Lecha, lecha, dodi, likrat, likrat, kala, pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, hishmi'anu el hameyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'liti la 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 lecha dodi, likrat, likrat, kala, pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala. Lecha, lecha, dodi, likrat, likrat, kala, pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala.
We rise together, face towards the doors. Final stanza.
Materet bala, gam besimcha uvetzohala, toch emuneam segula. Boi chala, la 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 lecha dodi, likrat, likrat, kala, pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala. Lecha, lecha, dodi, likrat, likrat, kala, pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala, la 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 lecha dodi, likrat, likrat, kala, pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala. Lecha, lecha, dodi, likrat, likrat, kala, pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala. Pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala. Pene, pene, Shabbat, nekabala.
Going to remain standing. You can face forward. The Baruch Hu, whichever one you want to do, by the way. You can do the regular one. You can do Am I Awake? I'll leave it up to the Chazan's choice. But it is the call to prayer, and we're going to join together.
So there's a little nigun. We'll start with it, and the melody will go throughout the prayer. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruch hu et Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, lai. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim.
You may be seated. On page 40, this prayer of Ahavat Olam is actually the introduction to the Shema itself, right, Chazan Mimi? Because it speaks about love. Now, by the way, when I've done, when I talk to church groups, by the way, and we sometimes have a panel with a priest, a rabbi, and if they'll begin, they'll say, they'll ask the Catholics, God is, and they'll blank, and together each Catholic in one voice will say love. And it's so interesting, if you do that to a Jewish group, you get like 19 different answers. Right? It's just the nature of it. But the idea of love as being part of a relationship with God, I have to tell you, is transformative. Right? In the ancient world, I don't know if you ever thought about this. How many of you have ever studied, let's say, Greek mythology? Right? You studied Greek mythology in school. You have to study Greek mythology. And the gods very often are at war, aren't they? They're often at war with each other. Right? And so in the ancient world, the gods in the heavens were at war. And by the way, if you're humans, we have this concept, by the way, it's a principle called imitatio Dei, the Latin, which is the imitation of God. We want to follow God's ways. We want to mirror God, if you will. So by the way, if the heavens are in conflict, then what's the natural state of humans? To be in conflict as well. Isn't that interesting? Like, we should mirror what happens in the heavens. The Jewish tradition, the ancient Israelite tradition, does away with that, takes away this idea that there are different gods. And the idea that there's oneness and that there's peace, that means that we should model that as well. It's really, if you haven't thought about it, it's really Copernican and its theological implications. And it turns the idea of how we should live on its head. That's what these prayers are about finding wholeness. And don't we need that at this time in our society? That is so fractured and so... You find that people are not as nice as they were 2 years ago? You find less patience, not as nice? And we have to find that patience and love. That's what we're trying to find in these prayers. On page 40... We're going to, are we doing Kihem Chayenu?
Sure. Unless you want to start with Ahavat Olam. I'm
Whatever.
game for either.
It's Cantor's choice tonight.
Woo! Okay.
There you go.
We'll start with Kihem Chayenu. Kihem Chayenu, Ve'orech Yameinu, Uvahem Negei Omam Valayla. Kihem Chayenu, Ve'orech Yameinu, Uvahem negei yomam v'layla, ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu, uvahem negei yomam v'layla, ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu, uvahem negei yomam v'layla, v'yavatecha tasir mimenu la'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Amen. On page 41, the words of the Shema. If you wish, those of you even at home, if you want to cover your eyes in these first 6 words, which speak of oneness, as I mentioned, of God, of life, humanity, the oneness and wholeness of peace as we join together.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'otecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele Asher Anochi Mitzavecha Hayom Alevavecha Vishinantam Lemanecha Vidibarta Bam Bishivtecha Bevetecha Uvelechtecha Vaderech Uveshoch Becha Uvekumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu letotafot beinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha.
We continue silently, page 42, Hebrew or English, whatever you prefer.
Leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem lelohim Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, Emet.
It's page 44, we continue. Micham Mocha, who is like unto you, O God.
Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Lai 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 la lai la 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 lai. Yai la lai lai la la lai lai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osei fele. Nora tehilot osei fele. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha. Bokei ayam livnei Moshe. Ze'eli anu ve'amru. Ze'eli anu ve'ameru. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai la lai lai la la lai lai. V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov. Kulo miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai. God Yisrael. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai la lai lai ya lai 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 lai.
Page 45, you'll find the Hashkivenu. It's a prayer which speaks of peace. So many of our prayers, a sukkah of peace, a tabernacle of peace. We're going to begin the third line down from the top of the page. And on the transliteration, you'll find from the third line in the red, from the bottom of the page, Ufros Aleinu.
Ufros aleinu sukat sukat shlomecha ufros aleinu sukat Shlomecha. Yalai, lalai, yalai, lalai, yalai, lalai, 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 yalai, lalai, yalai, lalai, yalai, lalai, 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 ufros aleinu Sukkot, Sukkot, Shlomecha.
Page 46 at the top of the page, the Shomer speaks about Shabbat being our covenant of life and understanding, relationship with God itself. We continue the top of the page, the Shomer.
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam.
So the story of how the Torah was given in the Torah itself, I think many of you know. The Israelites arrive at Mount Sinai. They leave Egypt. They get to Mount Sinai. 7 weeks after leaving Egypt, that's what Shavuot is about. 7 weeks later, the receiving of the Torah. And you know the story probably in terms of Moses going up the mountain, coming back the mountain, going up. He comes down, right? First of all, the Israelites hear the 10 Commandments. Then he comes down with the tablets. He breaks the first set, remember, because they're worshiping the golden idol. Some of you know that. He goes back up. 40 days, 40 nights again. Comes down with the second set. But the rabbis have great rabbinic imagination. If you don't know anything about the rabbis who have been around for about over 2,000 years, the beginning of what we call rabbinic Judaism, they had a great imagination. You know, you've studied, Lori, about the rabbis and Midrash. And so the rabbis, in their imagination, have this rendition, this version of how it happened. Right? God, before coming to the Israelites to give the Torah, actually went to the other nations first. And he went to the Ishmaelites. And he said, I'm prepared. I want to give you the Torah. And they said, what's in it? And he started with the 10 Commandments. And he got as far as thou shalt not steal. And the Ishmaelites said, nope, stop right there. Like, that's what we do. Like, you have something, you see something you want from your neighbor, you just take it. Like, that's what we do. So God goes to the next nation. And he starts to go through again through the 10 Commandments. And they get as far as the 5th one, you shall honor your father and mother. And they go, oh, stop right there. Like, we don't have to do that here. Right? You can do whatever you want to your parents. Right? We don't care about them. which is not a good thing. I'm looking at you right there, and you, right? Always respect your parents, right? So God goes around to all the nations. He gets to another nation, the nation of the Moabites, and he starts going through the Ten Commandments. He gets as far as the commandment that deals with loyalty in relationships and marriage and family. And they go, no, like, we just don't believe in that. Right? You can do whatever you want. So God goes around to all the nations of the world, and somewhere as he's reading through the commandments, they go, nope, sorry. Finally, at the very end, he gets to the Israelites. And even before he says, right, God says, I give you this Torah, the Israelites don't even ask what's in it. They say, in the Hebrew, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do, and then we'll listen. The idea was that they were willing to accept it prima facie, that they were just willing to accept because they believed what it meant to have a good life. And it doesn't mean that always you get to do what you want to do. Sometimes, right, especially you teens, right? You still a teenager? No. Nah. Right? Like, sometimes you have to do things that you don't like. And what do parents say? Sometimes you'll ask them why, and sometimes they'll say because. Because it's a way of leading a good life. You may not understand it yet, but just to know, like, this is how you create a good life and how you become a good person. And it's not always doing what you want. We know that. It's usually doing what you have to do, which is sometimes hard. And this story talks about how it's not so easy. And that, by the way, for the rabbis, it was really important to note that God was willing to be the God of all peoples. Right? That everybody was willing, if they could elevate their lives. In the ancient world, these pagan societies were not ready to acknowledge the idea of one God. And so it was the Jewish people who begin that relationship. So it's a beautiful, there's great midrashim. The rabbis, Laura, you know this, had great imagination. And when I study with people, when I study this, Arnold, people will say, like, where did the rabbis come up with this? It's kind of your question that you like to ask. Like, what, did they make this up? It's not in the Torah. The rabbis had this great idea, a great imagination about how you can learn from the Torah, and they were willing to read into it and to get very creative. We're going to continue with the Amidah, the standing prayers, which means, why don't we rise, on page 47, and we're going to begin. I'm going to teach you Hebrew, those of you who don't know Hebrew. All right? You ready to learn some Hebrew? We're going to ask everybody to rise, if you will, to stand, and repeat after me, one word at a time. Adonai,
Adonai,
Svatai,
Svatai,
Tiftach,
Tiftach,
Ufi,
Ufi,
Yagid,
Yagid,
Tehilatecha.
Tehillatech.
Right, God, open my lips, my mouth may proclaim your praise. The idea is we're praying that our hearts can open up to really get in touch with what our deepest feelings and gratitude is all about. And it's an opportunity, so we're going to begin that together a couple times, and we're going to go silent. And this is a time for Hebrew or English, or if you want your private prayers from your heart, things you're grateful for. If you know somebody who survived an accident recently, and you're grateful for that. If you're grateful for anything in life and the blessings. And those of you at home, you're going to join along with us as well. Chazan Mimi, as we begin Adonai Tzvatai.
Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Svatai Tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagid. Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Anananananana Adonai. Ananananana Svatai Tiftach. Ananananana Ufi Yagid. Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Ananananana Adonai. Adonai Svatai Tiftach. Ananananana Ufi Yagid. Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Ananana shalom. Bimramav ose shalom. Bimramav hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. Bimramav. Oh, say shalom. Bimramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu.
We're going to have you remain standing, and you're going to turn to page 63. And this is the counting of the Omer. Traditionally, it's done, by the way, at nightfall, right, when it's dark, because that's when the new day begins. So, those of you who are online, if you want, some of you, by the way, on the East Coast, sometimes we have people who are tuning in, so it's even later. But if you want to wait to do it a little bit later, but we're going to do the blessing first on page 63, and then on page 70, the very bottom there, the last one where it says the night before Shavuot. This is the final night of counting these weeks from Passover to Shavuot. So on page 63, Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam asher yisrael v'tzav v'tzivanu asfirata homer.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Hayom tisha v'arba'im yom shehem shiva shavuot la'omer.
Hayom tisha v'arba'im yom shehem shiv'a shavuot la'omer. Tonight, the 49th night of the Omer day, right, which is 7 weeks. By the way, if you don't know the word Shavuot, the holiday, comes from the Hebrew word Shavua, week. Shavuot, meaning weeks. That's where we get the Festival of Weeks, the name. We're going to remain standing, Aleinu, page 56.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, latet gedula le'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu ki goyei aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kecho hamonam, va'anachnu koreim, umishtachavim, umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shehu notes shamayim ve'oser haaretz, umoshav yekaro b'shamayim ima, ushkinat shuzo, v'gov he'meromim, hu Eloheinu enod, emet malkeinu efizulato, kakatu v'torato, v'yadat Shevota elevavecha ki Adonai hua Elohim bashamayim mima'a ve'aretz mitachat ein od Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
You may be seated. This moment of memorial, these the names of the people we remember for the love that they shared and the way they continue to inspire us. On this Shabbat, we remember Amna Amurula, Elaine Arner, Roseanne Aroesti, Regina Astrakhan, Raquel Bernberg, Harold Bookbinder, Alfred Braun, David Bushman, Joseph Kubitz, Bernard Ein, Brian Elkins, Jenny Epstein, Anna Fields, Walter Feinberg, Ruth Freiberg, John Funt, Walter Gans, Samuel Garber, Alvin Goldenberg, Michael Goldman, Giora Gordon, Michael Gerner, Elaine Hart, Sam Keary, David Netzer, Norman Levine, Dale Litzinger, Edith Mednick, Sidney Nelson, Irving Novetsky, Anita Osborne, Joseph Perlman, Aaron Resnick, Paul Rosenthal, Herman Rosenthal, Jakob Rusen, Max Sands, Sylvia Schuster, Arthur Schwartz, Herbert Shadovitz, Ovadia Shakiban, Stan Schneiderman, Ruth Stile, Bernard Stock, Morris Swedock, Rosula Sarajan, George Toplinsky, Harry Wenk, Gertrude Wixel, Penny Winthrop, and Sergei Zweibel. For those reciting Mourner's Kaddish, we invite you to rise at this time. You'll be able to find the Mourner's Kaddish. And those of you who are home, who are part of our minyan as well, page 58, you may stand as well. Those of you who wish to remember the lives of those who have gone before us on the Yortzeit, the anniversary of their passing. Those reciting Kaddish, join together. Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Amen. Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael b'agalau v'zman kari v'meru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam umei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata Damiran v'alma v'meru, Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru, Amen. May God who establishes peace in the heavens grant peace and harmony for us, for all of Israel and all of humanity, as we say, Amen. You may be seated. Just some quick announcements to remind you about what's coming up. We have services tomorrow at 10 a.m. for Shabbat, as we usually do, and Shabbat mornings are always in person. Next week, Friday nights, will be a virtual Shabbat Live, so online only in terms of Zoom. Can live stream. Can they live stream also? Or is it only Zoom? Yeah, you can Zoom or live stream. And Shabbat morning, we're going to have a bar mitzvah. Is that correct? True, Gilbert?
Yes, we are on the 11th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
So next week, Shabbat morning, 10 o'clock. This week, by the way, so Shavuot starts tomorrow night, as we've mentioned. We have a wonderful joint program with Shomer Torah Synagogue. This will be here at the synagogue. All kinds of programs and discussions, focusing, by the way, on Ukraine. And you can see the flags are with us 100 days. It's hard to believe that since the origins of the invasion 100 days ago. And so we'll be talking about not just the geopolitical issues at all, but even Jewish issues that relate to us. We're going to hear from Hias. We're going to hear about refugees. We're going to study texts together. It's going to be an amazing night. So those of you who wish to come here, starting at, is it 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock. You can find all the information online. And we have services, of course, for Shavuot, day 1, Sunday. And 10 o'clock will be in person. Monday for Shavuot, day 2, 10 o'clock as well. And then our Yizkor service will start at 12 o'clock. So whether you come here, or those of you who are live streaming, you'll be able to pray and to share in the memories of the Yizkor service as well. Because Mimi, am I missing anything for announcements you can think of?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
All right. Tell you what, how would you like to finish up the service tonight? It's Cantor's Choice tonight.
Okay, Cantor's Choice is a song about the tree of life, our Torah. So there's 2 parts, Shalom and then Eitz Chaim Hi, or It is the Tree of Life. It's a round, so pick a part and just have fun. Shalom, 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 shalom. It is the tree of life to them that'll fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It is the tree of life to them that'll fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom. Eitz Chaim Hi lamachazikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar. Eitz Chaim Hi lamachazikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar. Last time, shalom 4 times.
Here we go, yeah.
Shalom, 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 shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, buen Shabbat. Join us tomorrow for Shavuot and tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock for services.